A few weeks ago, the Wuxi Cadet World Championships had the whole fencing community talking. The ref made a bad call at 14-14, crowning what most considered to be the wrong world champion. This resulted in a lot of complaining and China getting involved, and the whole thing resulted in the ref getting a punishment. In the fencing world, this was big news. A referee actually getting consequences hasn't really happened at all in recent memory. While everyone else was focused on that last touch, when I watched the match, the first thing that came to my mind was, wow, this is actually a pretty good bout. Pan hasn't really been getting much media representation, and to be fair, there isn't really a lot of media attention on cadet and juniors in general, but she is really crazy for how young she is. I mean, in World Championships last year in Riyadh, she actually won at the age of 14. In junior! When you look at the junior women's rankings on the FIE website, her slot in the age column sticks out. The majority of the other fencers are 19, 20, some 18s and stuff, but she's just chilling there at 15. Every generation seems to have one or two really young prodigies, and Pan seems to be her for this one. Covaliu, on the other hand, has been around for a bit with some pretty strong results in cadets over the years. She's also notably the daughter of legendary fencer Amalia Covaliu, who doesn't really need that much introduction. She's also made day 2 at a Grand Prix in seniors, so that's pretty cool. But now this is an exciting bout with some stakes. Pan has something to prove if she can make 2 World Championship golds in a row in 2 different age groups, and Covaliu has a chance to make a big result after seeing a bit of success in seniors.
Let's see how this evolves.
Usually in the first touch of a 15-touch bout, both fencers are still kind of feeling each other out. Covaliu simply goes for a straight attack and Pan is able to react and parry.
In the middle, Covaliu with an attack, easily parried.
Small tactical phrase by Pan. Covaliu hesitates a bit to help watch because she just got parried, giving Pan the time to take reprise.
Pan looking very relaxed.
I'm a little surprised Covaliu just went for straight attack again, but she did. Pan goes for the same thing, which is reasonable early in the bout because she hasn't tried a single straight attack yet, and it causes this kind of both attack situation that is never really called simul anymore. Pan kind of comes off the line a little more aggressively, so it's given to her. Personally, I think it's a little crazy that stuff like this is being called, and I think a good portion of the fencing community agrees, but that's just how it is, I guess, right now. Again, Pan wins in the box with a reprise, but maybe gets a little too comfortable on the attack and gets counterattacked.
Light against her.
Covaliu is choosing to continue trying to build a game around this straight attack. This time it works, and visually you can tell she's starting to get more comfortable with the bout.
Step lunge with the point on. Well, if it worked.
Covaliu continues attacking, but this time she adds a little bit of nuance with this kind of slight pause, appel step before she lunges. This is a cool timing mix-up from the previous point. The pause triggers a hesitation from Pan, who hasn't seen this timing yet, allowing a clean window for Covaliu to attack. I'm also a big fan of appels in the box in general because it makes extending your attack with the reprise a lot easier, which is just in general a very strong touch to be able to win these days. It's really important that you mix up the timing of your attacks if you're choosing to attack a lot, and this was a really great time to do so.
I heard blade contact. I think Pan might have parried them. Just it was the remise that hit. Not that time.
Straight attack again by Covaliu, although this time she does go a bit longer with a double advance lunge. The game Covaliu has built around her straight attacks is putting a lot of pressure on Pan, and looking at Pan's body language, it's obvious that she's struggling to keep up with the offensive pressure right now. Same offensive sequence as before, mixing up the straight attacks with the hesitation appel attacks.
Ooh.
Pan fights back this time with a deep attack of her own. She desperately needs some offensive pressure of her own right now in this situation. Covaliu reacts but isn't quite on balance enough to make the correct riposte, and Pan ends with the point.
Really at the end.
That was not a simple call.
Covaliu is starting to run away with it. Pan has to hesitate more out of fear of that straight attack, which allows Covaliu to come in really strong and confidently and take reprise if she sees Pan goes back, which is exactly what's happening. This is basically what you want when you build a game around a strong, straight attack in the box. You want your opponent to fear it, back down a bit, and give you the space to start running them down the strip. Covaliu is playing this beautifully.
Covaliu's taken over in the middle of the piece.
And now Pan starts to move out, but to no avail.
Again, deep attack from Pan is able to get her the right of way when Covaliu misses her riposte, but this time she gets counterattacked while pushing down the strip. This is not the first counterattack we've seen against Pan, and her movements are probably a little bit too big right now, but I would also bet that it's partly because of the mental pressure. Pan is losing tactically in the box and really needs to win all the straight touches she can until she can find a good solution for Covaliu's game. I think anybody with tournament experience knows that this is really hard to execute in the moment under pressure.
Both times she's tried that sort of flying action attack, whatever it is, and been hit, so I don't see her trying that again. Well, she did, but she took...
Good reprise from Pan, definitely a much needed touch in this instance. I would argue that Covaliu is probably relaxing a little bit too much when she had built her game previously around aggression, but maybe she was trying to open herself up to another pull, but you never really know what the fencers are truly thinking. Covaliu again gets that straight attack, but this time using more of an attack on prep setup with small, sharp steps into a very straight cut. This is definitely a direct response to Pan's reprise takeover on that last touch. Pan is trying to go deeper and push Covaliu out of the box, but this is difficult when Covaliu feels so confident with her straight attacks. So now we reach the break. Pan did have a comfortable start, but Covaliu's really strong attacks in the box have been working really well, letting her stay a step ahead in the tactical wheel. The score is 8-5, but this is a tricky situation right now for Pan, because she doesn't really have reliable actions or answers to the things Covaliu is doing. We can say that Covaliu is winning with that strong attack in the box, but we can't really say any single action is as powerful for Pan right now. I mean, Pan's own attacks did get her the right of way a few times, but both were only because Covaliu missed her riposte, not because she won in the box. In order to win, Pan needs to find her own strong actions to rely on in the box, or else she'll find herself behind and trying to catch up for the rest of the bout.
One video, well, thank you, referee. It's very clear. One video left for Covaliu, 2 for Pan.
This point shows a lot of intention. Pan immediately starts the second half with an answer to Covaliu's straight attack. You can never tell exactly what a fencer is thinking, but this is very clearly planned and premeditated. In the first half of the bout, Pan would always kind of look a little unprepared for Covaliu's attack, but now she is very on balance and looks very ready. This solution is really logical when you think of really actually just the tactical wheel. Of course, you don't rely on only the tactical wheel above, a bare basic beginner level, but clearly it's a strong tool here. Covaliu is going for straight attack. What beats straight attack? Para post. This is exactly the type of action Pan needs if she wants to start coming back.
There we go.
That's what we talked about, blade actions for Pan.
You said she wasn't going to do that.
She wasn't listening.
Again, finding another action for Covaliu's attack. The attack down the strip was really good as well. This time she keeps her distance and pushes Covaliu further down the strip to avoid that counterattack she was hit with a few times. You could even potentially say her raised hand position might be like a technical adjustment to avoid the counterattack, but on that level it's hard to tell exactly what the fencers are thinking.
Wow.
How about that?
Another parry is crazy here. This sends a huge statement. Pan has now gotten 3 defensive actions in a row in the box and leveled the score. If it wasn't already clear that this was a premeditated action, now it is really impossible to deny. This also shows the crazy confidence Pan is starting to feel right now. Not a lot of fencers are willing to go for this many actions in a row. Right now, Covaliu is the one who has to come up with a new answer to Pan's actions.
2 of the first 3 actions have been blade actions, riposte for Pan.
After Pan's great sequence in the box, Covaliu is the one who has to find an answer. And the solution she comes up with is kinda wild. I think most people would just pick a waiting preparation here, maybe try to win reprise, but Covaliu chooses to run in super deep with this beat, parry 2 in the box that a lot of lefties seem to like. This kind of super aggressive offensive approach to the situation actually does make sense given Covaliu had built her initial lead originally with those aggressive attacks, but she's probably going for a similarly aggressive approach here. I didn't quite hear exactly the call from the ref, but even though Covaliu missed her beat, I think he's saying that Pan's riposte is on the guard. This might be a little bit of foreshadowing for what's to come.
It works and sometimes it doesn't.
Pan again with another action, but this time Covaliu is able to keep up her momentum and grind out the point. Covaliu is still in a tricky situation right now, but shows some really good mental here and is willing to fight for every single touch. Action again by Pan. This time it looks like Covaliu was either trying to win attack on prep or she's just under a lot of pressure and throws out a quick attack. Pan has found a really good solution to the bout and doesn't need to change strategies. Just waiting and looking for an action is working most of the time.
She's keeping it away.
Not giving her the blade. An immediate.
Both fencers grind for attack in the box here. I guess Pan does need to show at least once that she's willing to attack, but it's 2025, so unfortunately this won't be simul. Finally, Covaliu goes for her own action. I think it's kind of an interesting note that even though Pan has been waiting more in the second half, reprise is still tough because Covaliu has been so stubborn with her straight attacks in the box. This restricts the amount of space Pan can go forward if she wants to attack. This is a really big touch for Covaliu. She's now able to regain her somewhat comfortable lead and is able to stay in the match despite Pan's great box adjustment against her.
We're supposed to start.
Attacking again, given to Pan this time. She does go for this technical mix-up by raising her hand though, which is pretty cool.
Not even a.
Again, pulls are still working for Pan. I think it's notable right now that the actions outside of the box have been pretty negligible so far in the second half, which is something that happens pretty often as bouts progress. Everything has been won in the box, and I don't see that changing by the end of the bout. As the bout develops and gets more and more in the box, the fencers are going to have to continue playing this referee lottery game where nothing is simul. I think sometimes it's okay, but this is one of those matches where I really think some simul calls would improve the quality of the bout. Pan has been able to catch up with her adjustment in the second half and force Covaliu to start grinding in the box, but the random calls against her are pretty much single-handedly keeping Covaliu in the bout.
Wow.
I think this is the point that made me really excited for this bout. Covaliu is able to recognize that the bout has become a lot of attacking and changes to a para post. Seeing how this match has evolved really shows the focus of both fencers right now. Not super flashy, but still a really incredible tactical touch in this moment.
Came up short.
Really, really cool time to go for an action. I don't know about you guys, but I know for me, executing this parry at 14-11 with the whole bout and World Championship title on the line would be very, very difficult. This is some really incredible stuff.
Was able to score. Attack and press.
Technical mistake by Covaliu, just holding back a little too much in this moment. This is what happens at 14-12 with all that pressure of the final.
He did go.
I'm finding myself saying this very often, but Pan goes for an action again. It's not rare these days for both fencers to start grinding attacks at the end of a bout, but usually when this happens, their fate becomes up to the referee. This bout had a little bit of that, but there are so many actions that, at least as of right now, it's not very overwhelming.
What you gonna do, Covaliu?
First attack is no. The first attack is no from the left. I'm changing my mind. I'm making the call. That goes to Pan, in my opinion.
And yeah, that point. Ref was probably more inclined to give it to Covaliu because the last time that action happened, he gave it to her. But yeah, I don't really want to talk that much about this touch. I think the internet has already made up its mind with it. Now, despite the result, I do still think that this was a really cool bout overall. And I think that last touch really made people under-celebrate the match. We saw a really cool aggressive game from Covaliu to start. Then in the second half, we saw Pan find a ton of second intention parries and pulls to counter those attacks, which is, the type of fencing that really traditional coaches love. Then, even when the bout started to be a grind in the box, we still saw a ton of actions from both fencers. Definitely had me on the edge of my seat the first time I watched this. Well, that's it for this one. This is my first video. I feel like there isn't enough analytical fencing content online, especially bout analysis. It's mainly just Slicer Saber these days in the last, year or so. So follow and share if you want more of this content. Thanks.